because it was that undercurrent. It was that, you know, we all these communities came together to fight the oppressive regime that imposed this heinous, indignified conduct upon us. So what I'm saying is, take that question forward, and you might add questions to what I've submitted to you. This is my own personal trajectory and my submissions of grappling with how I fit, because ultimate values is deeper than just the right, and values informs the interpretation of the right. So I certainly do submit that Vuk'uzenzele is a derivative and encapsulated within Ubuntu, and that is the South African element, and we are one of the African countries that had this huge indignity imposed upon us. And that's why dignity is the heart of the South African Constitution. It's in the founding values, and it is now encapsulated in our human rights, our Bill of Rights. So that's the one question I would invite future lawyers, those that are aspiring to take this forward. Then there's the second question that I would say is, part of the struggle, you can never underestimate the fight from women. We have what Tim Kalapasi, what Tim Mbokoro. You strike a woman, you touch her up. I have heard this negativity from women today that, look, we're soft, we're not rocks, you know, so you strike a woman, you touch her up. It's not that, you're creating harshness upon us. My deeper investigation into that is that is a misunderstanding of what that term means. So what it means that if you strike a woman, if you have impacted, if you have hurt me, I'm going to be the only one that stands up to rise against that. What was manifested when 50,000, over 50,000 women of all kinds marched against the protest rules, against the past rules. So what means is that if you attack one woman, men also included, that share that same ideology, it is like a rock that cascades down a hill. When a rock is falling downhill, you don't find one little stone just going down. You find it becomes such a rumble, and this whole hill starts crumbling to crush whatever was before it and flatten it. And that is the manifestation of our women that marched in 1956 against the past rules. So what had me then identify for myself what were the facets of my Mbokoro. So you know what a Mbokoro is. scratch all over again. And mark my words, if you're proceeding in a I know it all, I mean, I'm going to think, why must I waste my time? Because it's casting pearls before swine. My time is valuable. I'm not going to waste my time. But all of you today manifested respect. You participated through this entire process, and you did your absolute best. We read that it's so argument. You are here today. So you really manifested one of my core facets of the court. So very well done. The other is opportunity costs. I majored in economics in my BCom degree, so I just took that. And that's always been something that helped me grow. Opportunity costs is something you also manifested on how you apply it today. And I see that in you. So it is the cost of foregoing your next best option. So it is simply the costing of not having participated today. Had you not participated today, and that's also for us from the bench, had I not participated today, I know what my next best option is. Perhaps I would have been languishing at home, maybe I woke up a little bit late, perhaps I would walk. You know where you would have been if you had not participated today. So this is an economic principle. The cost of foregoing your next best option. It's economics. I'm interested in economics. So what I'm saying to you is opportunity cost. Everyone chose this as their best option for today, and you compared it to the cost. There's a cost to not being here and having chosen another option. The costing would have been whatever learning we forfeited today. So we have gained. So what I have done throughout my trajectory, ever since I encountered the principle of economics in my BCom degree, is whenever I needed to make decisions, I evaluate what is the cost of my next best option, and I take
Yeah.